Jamie George opens up on England's horrible Ireland review as team vows to respond in Six Nations. England hooker and Centurion Jamie George has revealed the brutal reality inside the England camp following their disappointing defeat to Ireland national rugby union team, describing the post-match review session as horrible but necessary as the team looks to bounce back in the Six Nations Championship. After suffering consecutive defeats in the tournament, the pressure has intensified on head coach Steve Borthwick and his squad. England's loss to Scotland national rugby union team was disappointing enough, but the heavy home defeat against Ireland at Twickenham Stadium raised serious questions about the team's performance levels and overall direction. Now, as England prepare to face Italy national rugby union team, George insists the painful lessons from that defeat could serve as a turning point. England under pressure after difficult start. England entered the Six Nations campaign with cautious optimism after showing promising signs during the previous year. However, the first half of the championship has not unfolded as expected. Their narrow loss to Scotland was already a setback, but the crushing defeat to Ireland exposed deeper issues that the team must urgently address. Ireland, led by head coach Andy Farrell, produced a dominant performance that overwhelmed England both physically and tactically. The visitors controlled the tempo of the match and punished England's mistakes with ruthless efficiency. For England supporters, the defeat was difficult to watch. For the players themselves, reviewing the match afterward proved even more painful. That early promise quickly disappeared, according to George. The frustrating aspect of the defeat was that England actually began the match strongly. In the opening stages, they created promising attacking opportunities and executed parts of their game plan effectively. For the first 15 minutes, England looked competitive and capable of challenging Ireland. However, their inability to convert those chances ultimately proved costly. Once Ireland gained momentum, the match began to shift decisively in their favor. Small errors from England allowed Ireland to seize control of the contest, forcing the home side onto the back foot. George explained that when things started to go wrong, the team appeared stunned by the sudden shift in momentum. Instead of responding with increased intensity, their energy levels dropped. A situation he admitted was deeply concerning. That energy levels, a major concern. One of the biggest issues highlighted during the post-match review was the lack of intensity from England players. George admitted that the coaching staff and leadership group were alarmed by what they saw during the analysis session. Using GPS tracking data, coaches were able to measure exactly how fast players were moving during key moments of the game. The results were shocking. In several instances, players were operating at only around 40% of their maximum sprint speed during critical phases of play. For a team expected to compete at the highest level of international rugby, those numbers were unacceptable. George acknowledged that seeing those statistics on screen was deeply uncomfortable for the players. The IT forced them to confront a difficult truth about their performance. The horrible review session. The England squad recently gathered to review the Ireland match in detail. According to George, the experience was extremely difficult but ultimately necessary. Watching the footage back was described as horrible, as players were forced to relive moments where they failed to meet the standards expected of them. Yet the hooker believes this type of honest reflection is vital for improvement. In elite sport, uncomfortable truths must sometimes be confronted directly. The England squad understands that ignoring their mistakes would only allow the same problems to reappear in future matches. The review process, therefore, became an opportunity to learn from the defeat and ensure that the same issues are not repeated. Leadership group, taking responsibility. As one of England's most experienced players, George is part of the team's leadership group. He believes that senior players must take responsibility for ensuring the squad responds positively. Rather than blaming individual mistakes or external factors, the leaders within the squad are focusing on understanding why the team's energy levels dropped during the game. Was it psychological? Was it tactical? Or was it simply a failure to respond when the pressure increased? These are the questions England's leaders are attempting to answer. George emphasized that the team had entered the match with a clear plan and strong belief in their preparation. When that plan began to unravel, however, the response was not good enough. Identifying why that happened is now the priority. A rare dip in character. Perhaps the most surprising aspect of the performance was that the lack of energy seemed out of character for this England team. Over the past year, Borthwick's side has developed a reputation for resilience and physical commitment. Even when results have not gone their way, England have typically maintained high levels of effort and intensity. Against Ireland, however, that trademark fight appeared to vanish once momentum shifted. George admitted that this aspect of the defeat was particularly troubling for the squad. The players pride themselves on their work rate and competitiveness. Seeing evidence that they had fallen short in those areas was deeply frustrating, turning pain into motivation despite the disappointment. George believes the painful review could ultimately benefit the team. Sometimes negative experiences serve as the strongest motivation for improvement. Watching the footage and seeing the objective data has given the players a clear understanding of what must change moving forward. Rather than dwelling on the embarrassment of the defeat, the squad is attempting to channel those emotions into renewed determination. George described the process as negative reinforcement, an uncomfortable but powerful tool for learning that if the players can use the frustration from the Ireland defeat as fuel, it may ultimately strengthen their performance in the upcoming matches. The focus shifts to Italy clash with the review now complete. England's attention has turned to their next challenge against Italy. The match represents an important opportunity for Borthwick's side to prove that the defeat to Ireland was merely a temporary setback rather than a sign of deeper problems. Italy have improved significantly in recent years and are capable of troubling any opponent if underestimated. England, therefore, cannot afford to approach the match with complacency. Instead, they must demonstrate the intensity and focus that were missing in the previous round. For George and the rest of the squad, the goal is simple: ensure the lessons from the Ireland defeat translate into a stronger performance on the field. A crucial moment for England's campaign with 2 losses already on the board. England's hopes of winning the Six Nations have taken a serious blow. However, the remainder of the tournament still offers opportunities to restore pride and build momentum for the future. How the team responds to adversity will reveal a great deal about its character. The upcoming matches will test both the players and the coaching staff as they attempt to rebuild confidence and consistency. For experienced figures like George, the responsibility is clear. They must lead by example, ensuring the team's standards are upheld and that the painful lessons from the Ireland defeat are never repeated. Determined to prove it was a one-off ultimately, George believes the most important thing now is ensuring that the performance against Ireland remains an isolated incident. Every team experiences setbacks during a long campaign, but successful sides are defined by how they respond. That England's players are determined to show that the defeat does not reflect who they are as a team. The review process may have been uncomfortable, but it has also provided clarity. The squad knows exactly what went wrong, and more importantly, what must improve. Now the focus shifts from analysis to action. If England can translate those lessons into a determined performance against Italy, they may yet salvage something positive from a difficult Six Nations campaign. For George and his teammates, the challenge is clear: prove that the horrible review session was the turning point that sparked their resurgence.